Welcome back to API Kitchen, where we cook up secure APIs. I'm Confident Stably, your chef de cuisine in this unique kitchen. On today's menu, we have a challenging dish, input validation. It's like ensuring only the freshest, safest ingredients make it into our API stew. You see, our API right now is like a community soup pot where everyone adds a pinch of this and that. Let's imagine that our current recipe allows users to add comments, but it's missing a critical step: checking those ingredients for quality. But what if someone drops something harmful? Something like a malicious script instead of a comment the API was designed to receive from users. That's the risk we run without proper input validation. Our dish could turn from tasty to toxic or even poisonous. How would you suggest we address this security risk? Let's roll up our sleeves and get to work. Step 1. Choose the perfect spices. Validation and sanitization. To save our soup, we need to be picky about our ingredients. It's time to bring in some special tools like libraries and frameworks that act like the kitchen sieve, only letting the good stuff through. This step is like making sure every ingredient is fresh and clean before it hits the pot. Step 2. Reinforcing the kitchen's guard. In this step, we beef up our defenses with something called a content security policy. And this acts as our recipe guard, allowing only approved ingredients. And think of a web application firewall as the kitchen door, keeping out the riffraffs. Step 3. Relishing the refined recipe. Now, the moment of truth, the taste test. With our new validation steps, our API is not just tasty, it's protected from unwanted surprises. Corey Ball will be joining us today at the virtual kitchen. Let's go hear what he has to say about fixing this security issue. Corey Ball is the author of Hacking APIs. He's a senior manager of penetration testing at Moss Adams and is also the chief hacking officer at APISec University. Corey, it's such a delight to have you here. Welcome.
Hey, Confidence. Thanks so much for having me on.
So we'll really just dive right in this segment and just really discuss some of the pressing issues, right? I'm sure you've come across, cases where there are no input validation for API endpoints, and this sometimes could result to injection vulnerabilities, and then you get to see this often, I'm sure, in your work advising companies or pen testing APIs. I'd like you to please share your thoughts on how you might resolve this issue, and generally share your thoughts also on how to improve the security of these APIs, both in a case where the customer has a large budget and in a more economical context where the budget constraints are quite severe.
Sure. So input validation involves a series of checks for the data that's sent over by end users. This data should never be trusted, and it should be exactly what developers are looking to receive for the API. So in the case of a fintech API, if a certain parameter is expecting numbers to be sent over, maybe for an account balance transfer, then they need to make sure that the input that's sent over, first of all, those are numbers, but those are a specific set of numbers. And when I'm testing for that sort of thing, you can send over input that you would think a developer might not set any sort of protections against. So how does it handle negative numbers, for example? Or how does a parameter handle the world's GDP as a number that's sent over? So an extremely large number, negative number, or a very small decimal. And in those cases, the programmers have the difficult challenge of making sure that the program has exactly the type of data that they're looking for, and that they handle errors well whenever an unexpected parameter is sent over by an end user. And so on the different scales of what organizations should do to protect themselves against this, one, I always go back to testing. And so first they need to structure the end user data so that they're only passing through to the back end data that they want to receive. And so they have to set that specifically to the type of data that they're expecting to receive. And when they don't receive that type of data, they need to sanitize the input so that any bad characters or meta characters are filtered out. And then if they're receiving, in that example, a negative number, they need to either send back an error to the end user that says, this is not allowed, or something generically that's not going to be an information disclosure that can be used in additional attacks.
Thank you so much, Corey. And I didn't get to mention, I really love your apron. Just right on brand. Okay, great. So my next question is, what is one underutilized, maybe underestimated API security best practice that you consider the salt of the earth? I mean, a very basic yet potent approach or aspect that may greatly improve an organization's security posture in the context of APIs here.
Yeah, for me, once again, it all comes back to security testing. If you look at the annual State of the API report by Rapid API that they put out every year, security testing is one of those aspects that I always look for, and it's one of the lowest types of testing that's valued or planned out by developers. And security testing is what's going to inform organizations of the true security of their APIs. So how does it handle malicious input when it's sent over? How do they handle access controls when user A is trying to access user B's resources? These things are just so important to nail down, and it just needs to be a focus of organizations in order to make sure that the general blocking and tackling is done for API security, and these basic attacks that end up resulting in data breaches are taken care of and handled well.
Thank you so much, Corey, for joining us today at the Virtual Kitchen. And there we have it, a robust, flavorful API protected from the risk of unsavory inputs. We've just added the secret ingredients of input validation to our sumptuous dish. And that's how you secure an API in our kitchen. In the coming episodes, we'll be discussing even more API security issues and walking you through how to solve them. Remember to subscribe to CCNet TV and hit the notification bell so you won't miss out on new episodes of API Kitchen showing each Thursday. Until then, keep your kitchen clean and your APIs secure.